So I like that example I mentioned earlier about money because an example, I mean, I know it's a decimal, but still a fraction. How much is $1.50 as a fraction? Not as a decimal, as a fraction. 3/2. So $1.50 is the same as 3/2. No, just a straight fraction. How much is 25 cents as a fraction? 1/4. So one way of thinking about this is money. How many times does a quarter go into $1.50?
6.
How many? Yeah, it would take 6 quarters to get to $1.50. Now let's check it out and see if it works with fractions. We talked yesterday about keep, change, flip. So this fraction problem would become 3/2. This would change to multiply. And the second fraction flips. 3/2 times 4/1 is equal to, not 8, 12/2, which gives you 6. So 6 quarters fit into $1.50, which are just fractions, right? And of course we could use we could also talk about we were talking yesterday about cooking. Let's say that you had a recipe called for 2.5 cups of milk. Okay, 2.5, if we convert that to a fraction, is 5/2, so 5/2 cup. You want to figure out how many half cups fit into that. So how many half cups would it take to fit into that 5/2 cup? 2.5 cups. Well, if you did, yeah, it would become 5/2 times 2/1. 2 would cancel, so it would take 5 of those. So it does apply. You can do a fraction over fraction, and there are definitely practical examples. That's just a couple of them. Yeah, for that one, since it's both halves, you can just see it's 5, right? But if it was a quarter, it'd be a little bit more complicated. It'd be twice that many. So anyway, the rule still applies. You're still going to keep the original fraction. So say it's 2/5 or whatever, which is called a/b. Keep the first one. You change the division to multiplication, keep change, and then you flip the third one. So it becomes, if it's 3/4, it becomes 4/3, or c/d becomes d/c, whatever. So let's do the first example, 10/7 divided by 2/3. Yeah, and then what's this going to become? Good. Okay, so again, just don't make this mistake, guys. Do not flip the first number. That's why it's keep, change, flip. I'll put a K here. K means keep the first one. C means change that to multiplication. F means flip that. So the first fraction stays the same. It's going to look like this. So step 1, like yesterday, is multiply by the reciprocal. Yes, then what? Okay, yeah. What about the 3 and 7? Does anything happen? Okay, so what are you cross-canceling? The 10 and the 2, which becomes what? That becomes a 5. Okay, and then once we do that, then we can multiply straight across. 5 times 3 is 15. 7 times 1 is 7. Good. Mental math. So the answer is 15/7, which means that 10/7 divided by 2/3 is 15/7. Once you do it enough, it becomes second nature. You immediately flip the second fraction, change it to multiplication. Again, this one's actually just a conceptual one. No math involved. What goes inside this box? 4/1. He knew that because this changed to multiplication, so that means this must flip. Now 4/1 is the same as what? 4. Okay, so if you simplify that, it just becomes 4. Okay, let's do a few more. Definitely want to do a negative one. Let's do -3/4 divided by 2/3. Okay. First thing you're going to do, yep, make that multiplication and then flip the 3 over 2, so it becomes, sorry, flip the 2 over 3 becomes 3 over 2. So that's multiplying the reciprocal. And then we're going to simplify. Now, he said cross cancel. Yeah, you want to check to see if you can, but you can't, right? 3 and the 2 don't cancel, and the 3 and the 4 don't, so you'll just multiply straight across. -3 times -3 is -9. And the bottom, 4 times 2 is 8. So the final answer is -9/8. So sometimes that happens where you can't cross cancel, and that's fine. And certainly if you're not comfortable with that, you can always just multiply straight across and then simplify. Any questions on that example? Okay, let's work with some bigger numbers here. 100 divided by 39 divided by 40 over 26. All right, good. So how about the first one? First fraction. Leave it, good. 100 over 39. That changes to multiplication. I'll use the x this time. Second one flips, so the 26 on top and the 40 on the bottom. Okay, so we can cross, we'll call it cross reduce. If we cross reduce 140, what's the biggest number that goes into both those? 20, yeah. So 100 over 20 is 5. 40 over 20 is 2. How about 26 and 39? 13. 26 over 13 is 2, and then we have a 3 here. So certainly this is a lot simpler than trying to multiply straight across. So on the top we're going to have a 5 times a 2, and on the bottom we have a 3 times a 2. Now what can you do from here? Now there's something simpler than that. Yeah, if we have a 2 on the top and bottom, we can cross again. We can cross that out again. Yeah. Okay, good point. We've been cross canceling so much. He's saying, well, they're right on top of each other. Well, yeah, certainly. Yeah. It doesn't have to be a cross. They definitely cancel if they're above and below each other. So the final answer is 5 over 3. So as complicated as that looks, once you simplify it out, it's just 5/3.